I died for 18 minutes in Fallujah. Not officially. My heart kept beating, my lungs kept working, but the man I was, he died in a courtyard in Iraq when my Black Hawk fell from the sky. They say you can't cheat death. They're wrong. You can survive it, you can crawl through it, you can kill your way out of it, but you can't escape it. 3 men burned in that crash. 5 more died by my hand. I was the only one who walked away. And I've spent every day since asking myself, why? Why me? Why not them? What makes my life worth 8 other lives? The math doesn't work. It never will. This is the story of 18 minutes that destroyed everything, and the 3 years it took me to learn how to breathe again. My name is Danny Coleman, and this is how I fell from heaven into hell.
I'd flown over Fallujah 63 times before the city tried to kill me. 63 times I lifted off from Camp Fallujah, climbed to 800 feet, and became God. Up there, above the dust and the blood and the shit, I controlled everything. I could see the whole board, every street, every rooftop, every ant-sized insurgent thinking he was invisible. I was the eye in the sky, the guardian angel for the Marines grinding through those streets below. Invincible. That's what I thought anyway. November 12th, 2004, 1300 hours. I stood in the TOC, Tactical Operations Center, which was just a fancy name for a sagging tent filled with folding tables, sweating officers, and maps covered in grease pencil marks that never quite erased clean. The air conditioner wheezed like an asthmatic chain smoker, pushing around hot air that smelled of burnt coffee, unwashed bodies, and the particular funk of men who'd been in country too long. I held a tin cup of something that claimed to be coffee. It was brown. It was hot. That's where the resemblance ended. Tasted like battery acid mixed with dirt, but I drank it anyway because that's what you did. You drank the shit coffee. You wore the shit gear. You flew the shit missions. You did it because everyone else did it. And complaining made you weak. Colonel Harris stood at the front, a big man going soft around the middle, pointer in hand like a teacher with a classroom of violent children. He jabbed at the map, Jolan District, the heart of the shitstorm. Red circles marked enemy positions. Blue arrows showed Marine advance routes. It all looked so clean from up here, organized, a game board. Gentlemen, Harris's voice cut through the murmur. Operation Phantom Fury is entering day 6. Marines have cleared approximately 40% of the city. Resistance remains heavy in Jolan District. Your mission today is close air support for 3rd Battalion, 1st Marines. They're pushing through Sector 7 Echo. Expect heavy contact. I barely listened. I'd heard this briefing 63 times before with different words. Same story. Marines go in, bad guys shoot. We provide overwatch, extract wounded, drop supplies, fly home, drink, sleep, repeat. The math was simple. I'd survived 63 missions. The odds were on my side. Captain Coleman, Harris looked at me. Raven 3-6, you'll have primary overwatch on the northern approach. Watch for RPG teams on the rooftops. Intel suggests they're getting bold. Yes, sir. I took another sip of the battery acid. It burned going down. Good. Kept me awake. Harris continued talking. I studied the map, tracing the streets with my eyes. I knew them all. That T intersection where 2nd Platoon got ambushed last week. That mosque where a sniper had set up until an Apache turned him into pink mist. That 3-story building with the collapsed west wall where someone had spray-painted "Fuck Iraq" in letters 10 feet tall. From 800 feet, it was all just terrain, features, grid coordinates. I'd never walked those streets, never smelled them, never touched them. I was a pilot. I flew over problems. I didn't crawl through them. The briefing ended. Officers dispersed like roaches when you turn on a light. I stayed a moment, staring at that map, at Jolan District. Something prickled at the base of my skull, that feeling you get when you're being watched, or when something's not quite right but you can't name it. I shook it off. Nerves. Everyone got them. The trick was not letting them show. Outside, the November sun hit like a hammer. Iraq in November was supposed to be cooling off. Someone forgot to tell Iraq. The heat came up from the tarmac in waves, distorting the air, making the rows of helicopters look like toys in a mirage. The smell hit next. JP-8 fuel, hot metal, dust that got into everything and never came out. And underneath it all, the faint organic rot of a city dying by inches. I walked across the flight line, my boots crunching on gravel that felt hot enough to fry eggs. My crew was already at the bird. My Black Hawk, tail number 736, nicknamed Bad Penny because she always came back. The paint was sandblasted to hell, the nose art faded, but the turbines were solid. I trusted that machine more than I trusted most people. Sergeant Sanchez saw me coming and straightened up from checking the M240 mounted in the right door. Puerto Rican kid from the Bronx, 24 years old, arms like tree trunks from hefting ammo belts. He grinned, white teeth against dark skin. "Yo, Captain, beautiful day to not die, right?" "That's the plan, Sanchez." Specialist Mitchell was on the left gun. Farm boy from Iowa, corn-fed and corn-dumb, but he could shoot. He waved without looking up, still fussing with the ammo feed. He was always fussing with something. Nervous energy. Made him a good gunner. Nervous guys stayed alert. Lieutenant Jones, my co-pilot, was already in his seat running pre-flight checks. Young guy, too young, looked about 12 even with the stubble he was trying to grow into a mustache. Fresh from flight school. Still had that gleam in his eye like he was living a video game. Third mission with me. He'd learn, or he wouldn't. That gleam either got polished into competence, or it got snuffed out. I did my walk-around, my ritual, touched the fuselage. The metal was hot, almost too hot to hold a hand against, like the bird was alive and running a fever. Checked the tail rotor, the landing gear, the turbine intakes, everything I could see and touch. People thought pre-flight was about maintenance. It wasn't. It was prayer. Please work. Please don't fail me. Please bring me home. I climbed into the cockpit. The seat conformed to my ass, broken in over hundreds of hours. I strapped in, feeling the familiar bite of the harness across my shoulders. Pulled on my helmet. The world narrowed to what I could see through the visor and hear through the headset. On the console, stuck with medical tape that was peeling at the edges, was a photograph. Sarah, Katie and Mark, my wife and kids. Sarah smiling, that smile that made me feel like maybe I wasn't a complete asshole. Katie missing her 2 front teeth. Mark holding up a crayon drawing of what might have been a helicopter or might have been a pterodactyl. I touched the photo. Every time. Good luck. A promise. See you tonight, baby. Pre-flight check, I said into the comm. Jones ran through the list in my ear, his voice too eager, too clean. Fuel? Check. Hydraulics? Check. Armament? Check. Sanchez, Mitchell, you boys ready to party? Born ready, Captain, Sanchez said. Let's fuck some shit up, Mitchell added. I smiled. Sanchez was too cool. Mitchell was too excited. Jones was too nervous. And me? I was too tired. But we'd fly. We'd do the job. We'd come home. 63 times. What was one more? I hit the starter. The turbines whined, building from a whisper to a scream. The whole bird shook, vibrating up through my spine, through my chest, until my heartbeat synced with the rotors. That moment, when the engines caught and the bird came alive, that was church. That was the only time I felt clean. The rotors spun up, slow at first, then faster, chopping the air into submission. Dust exploded outward in a brown cloud that swallowed the ground. I couldn't see anything but instruments and sky. Good. I liked not seeing the ground. Tower came through on the radio. Raven 3-6, you are cleared for takeoff. Winds 170 at 8 knots. Fly safe. Roger, Tower. Raven 3-6 lifting off. I pulled collective. The Black Hawk lifted. That beautiful moment when gravity let go, when you transitioned from ground-bound machine to something free. We climbed, nose tilting forward, gaining speed and altitude. Below, Camp Fallujah shrank. The tents, the Humvees, the men who would stay on the ground today. They became dots, toys, irrelevant. We climbed through 400 feet, 600, 800.
800 feet.
My altitude, my kingdom. The city spread out below us. Fallujah. 250,000 people before the war, maybe half that now. The rest fled or died or got buried in the rubble. From up here, it looked like a diseased mouth, brown and gray buildings with gaps like missing teeth where bombs had landed. Streets wound like cracks in old leather. Smoke rose from a dozen fires. I could see the Euphrates River, sluggish and brown, cutting through the north side. And I could see the war. Tiny flashes, muzzle fire, small puffs of smoke, grenades, RPGs, IEDs. Ant-sized figures running between buildings. Humvees creeping down streets, gun turrets swiveling. It all looked fake, distant, a bad movie. The radio crackled to life, ground units calling in positions, asking for eyes, reporting contact. The usual chaos of men fighting for their lives compressed into calm, professional voices. Raven 3-6, this is Outlaw 2-1. We have visual on your bird. Good to have eyes in the sky. Roger, Outlaw 2-1. We've got you covered. Jones scanned the instruments. All systems green, Captain. Fuel at 92%.
Guns hot.
Copy. I settled into the seat, into the rhythm. The Black Hawk handled like a dream at this altitude. Stable, responsive, powerful. Below, Jolan District slid past. I saw the 3rd Battalion positions. Marines dug in behind sandbags and blown-out walls, pushing forward street by street. I saw the enemy, or I saw what might be enemy. Figures on rooftops, moving vehicles, heat signatures. Up here, everyone looked the same. The only difference was which side was shooting at which. Contact, 2 o'clock, Sanchez said. Rooftop, 3 males, possible weapons. I banked right, bringing us around. Squinted through the glare. 3 figures. Could be fighters. Could be civilians. Could be kids playing soldier. Outlaw 2-1, Raven 3-6. Got 3 possible hostiles on rooftop, grid 734, 821. Can you confirm? Stand by, Raven. Negative, those are friendlies. Iraqi security forces. Roger, breaking off. I pulled us away. Sanchez made a noise like he was disappointed. Kid wanted to shoot something. They all did at first. We circled. The minutes bled together, lazy circles over chaos. I could hear the war but couldn't touch it. The radio was constant. Requests, updates, casualty reports. Someone was wounded. Someone needed ammo. Someone saw a sniper. My war was clean, abstract. Other people died in pixels on my screen. Time dragged. Boredom crept in despite the danger. That's what they don't tell you about war. How much of it is waiting? Flying in circles. Watching. Waiting for something to happen.
How's it looking down there, Mitchell?
I asked, just to break the silence. Quiet. Too quiet. He said it like a joke, but there was an edge. He felt it too. That prickle at the base of my skull came back, stronger now. Captain, Jones said, you seeing this? Seeing what? Intel traffic. Ground units reporting increased activity in Jolan. Multiple RPG teams spotted. They're saying... The radio cut him off. All air units be advised. Enemy forces concentrating in Sector 7 Echo. Reports of possible SAM teams. Maintain altitude and exercise caution. SAM, surface-to-air missiles. Man-pads, man-portable air defense systems. Shoulder-fired missiles that could reach up and swat helicopters out of the sky like flies. I felt my hands tighten on the controls. Copy that. Raven 3-6 adjusting course, moving to... Raven 3-6, Outlaw 2-1, we need you north. We're taking heavy fire, need gun support. I looked at Jones. He looked back, young eyes wide behind his visor. Marines on the ground needed us. That was the mission. That's what we did. Roger, Outlaw. Moving to your position. I banked north toward Jolan District, toward the smoke, toward the densest part of the city where the buildings pressed close and the streets were kill zones, and every window could hide a man with a tube on his shoulder. Stay alert, I said. Sanchez, Mitchell, eyes on those rooftops. Roger. We descended slightly, 700 feet now, to get a better angle on the ground positions. The city rose up to meet us. I could see details now. Laundry hanging on lines, abandoned cars, a dog picking through garbage. And I saw him. A man on a rooftop, 3 stories up. He was turning, lifting something to his shoulder, something long and thin. Time did that thing it does in moments like this. It stretched. I saw every detail. The man was young, bearded, wearing a green headband. The tube on his shoulder was an RPG-7, Russian-made, reliable, deadly. He was pointing it at us. "RPG!" I screamed into the comm. "Taking evasive!" I pulled hard left, but Blackhawks don't turn on a dime. We're not fighter jets. We're pregnant cows with rotors. Heavy, stable, predictable. I saw the smoke trail. Thin, gray, rising toward us like an accusing finger. Everything in my training, every instinct, every hour of flight time screamed at me to do something. Drop, climb, turn, chaff, anything. But there wasn't time. The missile crossed the distance in under 3 seconds. 3 seconds of watching death approach. Jones was screaming something. Sanchez was yelling. Mitchell was shouting. The radio was chaos.
And all I could think was,
"Not me, not today, not after 63 times." The warhead struck the tail section. The world exploded. Sound died, replaced by a high-pitched whine that filled everything. The cockpit erupted in sparks, red lights everywhere, alarms screaming. The stick went dead in my hands, completely dead, no resistance, no feedback. And I knew what that meant. Tail rotor gone. We started spinning, fast, sickening. The horizon became a blur. Buildings, sky, smoke, ground, all mixing together in a nightmare carousel. "Mayday! Mayday! Mayday!" I was screaming into the radio but couldn't hear my own voice over the alarms and the screaming of metal tearing itself apart, and Jones crying out and the turbines howling, like wounded animals. We were falling. 800 feet, 700, 600, spinning, falling, and there was nothing I could do. Nothing. The controls were dead. The bird was dead. We were dead. I saw the ground rushing up, saw rooftops, saw the street, saw tiny figures running away from our shadow. 500 feet, 400. I saw Sarah's face in the photo, saw my kids. "I'm sorry. I'm so fucking sorry." 300 feet. The last thing I remember thinking before physics and gravity and war took over completely was, this is how it ends. I fell from heaven, and I'm going to die in hell. Then the world exploded, and I learned what it's like to fall. I didn't hear the impact. My ears were ringing, not ringing, screaming, a high-pitched whine that drowned out everything else. The world was spinning, had been spinning, would always be spinning. Up was down, left was right. The only constant was gravity, pulling us toward the earth like God had finally decided to collect. The RPG had gutted our tail rotor. I knew that. Somewhere in the part of my brain that was still a pilot, still professional, still capable of diagnosis, I knew exactly what had happened. The warhead had detonated against the tail boom, shredding the gearbox, severing control linkages, turning our steering mechanism into shrapnel. Without a tail rotor, a helicopter doesn't fly. It dies. We were in a flat spin, uncontrolled, accelerating, the main rotor overhead providing just enough lift to keep us from dropping like a stone, but not enough to do anything except prolong the inevitable. We spiraled down like a maple seed, except maple seeds don't weigh 10,000 pounds, and maple seeds don't have 4 men inside them screaming. I fought the controls anyway. Training, instinct, denial. My hands worked the collective and cyclic even though they were dead, even though I might as well have been pulling on a corpse's limbs. The stick offered nothing. No resistance, no feedback, no hope. The altimeter unwound. 500 feet, 400, 300. Through the spinning chaos of the windscreen, I caught glimpses. Sky, building, smoke, street, sky, building. Brace! 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 I was screaming it but couldn't hear my own voice, could only feel my throat tearing itself raw. Jones was frozen in his seat, hands locked on the grab handles, eyes wide and white like a panicked horse. His mouth was moving. Prayer, probably, or goodbye. Or just the shapeless scream of a 23-year-old who just realized he was about to die. In the back, Sanchez and Mitchell, I couldn't see them but I knew they were there, strapped into their gunner positions, nothing to do but watch the ground rush up and accept it. 200 feet.
I saw the impact point.
A flat roof, 3-story building, clay-colored, pockmarked with bullet holes, half the west wall blown out from some previous violence. We were going to hit it dead center.
100 feet.
Time did that thing again, stretched like taffy, like God wanted me to really appreciate every millisecond of my death. I saw details. Arabic graffiti on the building's side, a child's bicycle in the courtyard below, rusted, missing a wheel. Laundry on a line, still hanging despite everything because people still needed clean clothes even when the world was ending.
50 feet.
I thought of Sarah, Katie, Mark, thought of the photo taped to the console, wondered if they'd recover it, wondered if it would burn, wondered... We hit. The sound was... There's no describing it. Imagine every car crash you've never been in happening at once. Metal tearing, concrete shattering. The rotor blades, still spinning, still trying to fly, hit first, disintegrating in an explosion of carbon fiber and physics. The fuselage followed a microsecond later. The roof didn't stop us. It slowed us just enough to keep us from being a fireball, and then it gave way. We punched through in a shower of clay tiles and rebar and dust, dropped 15 feet, and slammed into the courtyard below. The second impact was worse. My head snapped forward. The helmet saved my skull, but not my brain. It sloshed inside my skull like water in a bottle. Everything went white, then black, then white again like someone was flipping a switch. When vision returned, seconds later, minutes, the world was sideways. We'd landed on our side. The Black Hawk was a broken thing, a shattered toy, bent and smoking and making sounds that metal shouldn't make, groaning, creaking, hissing. The smell hit immediately. Aviation fuel, hot metal, something burning, something wrong. I was hanging in my harness. The straps bit into my shoulders and chest, holding me suspended above what used to be Jones's side of the cockpit. Gravity had shifted 90 degrees. "Jones!" My voice came out thick, slurred.
Jones, you copy?
He didn't answer. I turned my head, slow, everything hurt, everything was wrong, and looked down at him. His seat was crumpled. The impact had driven the right side of the cockpit inward, folding the frame like cardboard. Jones was there, still strapped in, but his neck was bent, twisted at an angle that bodies don't twist. Too far. Necks don't bend like that. His eyes were open, empty. Fuck. The word came out as a whisper. Fuck, fuck, fuck. I had to move, had to get out. The fuel smell was stronger now, mixing with smoke, and some distant rational part of my brain was screaming that sitting in a downed helicopter full of jet fuel was a great way to get cremated. My hands found the harness release, fumbled with it. My fingers weren't working right, thick, clumsy like someone else's hands. The buckle finally gave. I dropped. The fall was only 4 feet, but it felt like 40. I landed on the crumpled remains of the right side door and instrument panel and Jones's seat, and Jones. My right leg hit wrong. The pain was immediate, absolute, white-hot and all-consuming. I screamed. When I could see again through the tears and the pain and the shock, I looked down at my leg. The tibia, the big bone in the lower leg, was broken. Not hairline fractured, not cracked, broken. I could see it. A white spike of bone pushing up through the fabric of my flight suit, just below the knee, streaked with blood. Wrong. So fucking wrong. Compound fracture. Open fracture. The kind that gets infected. The kind that kills you slowly if the shock doesn't kill you fast. I stared at it. My brain refused to process. That wasn't my leg. Couldn't be my leg. My leg didn't look like that. That was meat. That was hamburger with a bone sticking out. That wasn't... Voices. Outside. Distant but getting closer. Arabic. Shouting. Many voices. Excited voices. The sound of running feet. Reality crashed back in. I wasn't alone. I wasn't safe. I was in the middle of Fallujah. the most dangerous city in the most dangerous country in the world. And I just crashed a United States military helicopter in someone's courtyard. They were coming.
Sanchez.
I tried to turn to see into the back of the bird. Mitchell! Sanchez! Here. Sanchez's voice weak but alive. Thank Christ, alive. Captain, I'm stuck.
Something's on me. Mitchell?
Silence. Mitchell! Nothing. The voices outside were closer now. I could hear them clearly through the torn fuselage. Men shouting to each other, coordinating, converging on the crash site. I didn't need to speak Arabic to know what they were saying. American helicopter. Crew might be alive. Weapons. Prisoners. Glory. I had maybe a minute. Less. My survival vest. I patted my chest with shaking hands. Still there. I unzipped it with fingers that didn't want to cooperate. Inventory. 1 M9 Beretta pistol. 2 spare magazines. 15 rounds per mag. Signal flare. Morphine injector. Tourniquet. Water bottle. Cracked. Leaking. Compass. That was it. 45 rounds of 9mm. Against a city. The math didn't work out. I pulled myself toward the torn opening where the door used to be. Every movement was agony. The broken leg dragged behind me, useless, a dead weight that screamed protest every time it shifted. I bit through my lip to keep from screaming. Tasted blood. Behind me, Sanchez. Captain, don't leave us. I stopped, looked back. Sanchez was pinned under a collapsed bulkhead, his legs trapped, blood on his face. His eyes met mine. He knew. We both knew. I'll come back, I lied. I'll get help. I'll... Go. His voice was firm, clear. He understood. Just go, sir. Don't let them take you. Don't let them... The helicopter groaned. Something sparked in the back. Smoke was thicker now, black and oily. The fire was spreading. I pulled myself through the opening, fell out of the bird and hit the courtyard dirt. The impact sent fresh lightning through my leg. I rolled onto my back, gasping, trying not to scream, trying not to vomit, trying to be anything except what I was. A broken man with a broken body lying in the dirt. The voices were at the courtyard entrance, 30 feet away. 20. I rolled toward the nearest cover, a low concrete wall, maybe 3 feet high, half collapsed. Dragged myself behind it, left a blood trail in the dirt behind me like a snail trail. Obvious. Damning. I pulled the Beretta from its holster, checked the chamber, round loaded, safety off. The pistol felt heavy. Wrong. I'd qualified with it. Shot paper targets. Never shot a person. Never had to. I pressed my back against the wall and tried to breathe quietly. Tried to think. Tried to plan. But all I could think was, I'm going to die here, in a courtyard in Fallujah, and they're going to film it. The voices reached the helicopter. I heard them exclaim, seeing the wreckage, the destruction, the death inside. Some sounded excited, some sounded angry, all sounded eager. I heard them starting to circle around, looking for survivors, looking for me. Behind me, from inside the Black Hawk, I heard Sanchez scream, short, cut off. Then an explosion. Not the helicopter, something else, maybe a grenade, and the screaming stopped. Tears ran down my face. I didn't wipe them. No point. I raised the Beretta, pointed it at the corner of the wall where they would appear. My hands shook. The front sight wobbled in my vision. Come on, you fucking coward. You're a pilot. You're an officer. You're United States fucking Army. Act like it. The first man appeared around the corner. Young, maybe 20, skinny, wearing a dirty dish dasha and a green headband, AK-47 in his hands, too big for his frame. His eyes went wide when he saw me. We stared at each other. 1 second, maybe less. He started to raise the rifle. I pulled the trigger. The Beretta kicked. Loud. So fucking loud in the confined space of the courtyard. The bullet caught him in the chest, center mass, just like training. The impact punched him backward. He fell. I'd killed him. I killed him and the world didn't stop. The sun kept shining. The smoke kept rising. The war kept happening. I'd killed a man and felt nothing. No, not nothing. Relief. I was alive. He was dead. Simple math. The gunshot had been a signal flare, a dinner bell. Every insurgent within 3 blocks now knew exactly where I was. I heard them shouting, coordinating, running. I looked at the corpse, at his Kalashnikov lying in the dirt beside him, 3 feet away. The curved magazine jutting from the receiver looked full or close to it. 30 rounds, maybe more. I needed that rifle. But to get it, I'd have to crawl into the open, where they could see me, where they could shoot me. Behind me, the helicopter was fully engulfed now. Flames climbed into the sky. Black smoke poured upward, a beacon visible for miles. More voices from every direction. The net was closing. I made the decision. I crawled, dragging the useless leg, using my elbows. 3 feet became 3 miles. Every inch was purchased with pain. The leg screamed. My vision tunneled. But I reached it, grabbed the AK, pulled it to me like a drowning man grabbing a life preserver. Rolled back behind the wall just as the first bullets hit. They came from the courtyard entrance. 3, 4, 5 men all firing. AK rounds chewed through the concrete wall, sending chips flying. One caught my shoulder. Didn't penetrate the vest, but felt like getting hit with a baseball bat. Another passed so close to my head I felt the pressure wave. I fired back, blind, just stuck the rifle over the wall and pulled the trigger. The weapon bucked, loud, angry. I held it down, hosing the courtyard entrance with everything the magazine had. 30 rounds in 3 seconds. The magazine ran dry with an empty click. Silence. Not real silence. My ears were ringing again, but relative silence. The shooting had stopped. I didn't know if I'd hit anyone. Didn't care. Didn't have time to care. I looked around wildly. The courtyard was a kill box. Walls on 3 sides. The burning helicopter on the 4th. The only exit was through them. Or a window. 2nd floor of the building. Broken. Dark inside. If I could get to the building. If I could get inside. If I could hide. No. No more hiding. They knew I was here. They'd search. They'd find me. I had to move. Had to run. On a broken leg. I tried to stand. Got my good leg under me. Put weight on it. So far, so good. Tried the broken one. White. Everything went white. The pain was beyond description, beyond tolerance. My leg buckled. I went down hard, bit through my already bleeding lip. I tasted copper, blood, my own blood. I couldn't run, couldn't walk, could barely crawl. But I crawled anyway, toward the building, toward the window, toward anything except here. Behind me, I heard them regrouping, heard commands being shouted. They were organizing. Flanking, smart, disciplined. These weren't amateurs. These were fighters who'd been killing Americans for months, who'd survived marine assaults and airstrikes and artillery, who knew urban warfare better than I knew my own cockpit. I was prey. I pulled myself through a doorway, hanging off its hinges, bullet-pocked, into darkness. The building's interior, cooler, quieter. Smelled of dust and old violence and something dead. I collapsed inside, lay on cool tiles, breathing, just breathing. Each breath was a victory. Through the doorway, I could see the courtyard, see the smoke, see shadows moving, searching. My radio, still clipped to my vest, crackled to life. Raven 3-6, this is Outlaw 2-1. We saw you go down. QRF is inbound. Hold position, 18 minutes. Can you hold for 18 minutes? 18 minutes. A lifetime. I keyed the radio with shaking hands, whispered, "Copy, 18 minutes. I'll try. Stay alive, Raven, we're coming. Just stay alive." The radio went dead. Or maybe I turned it off. I don't remember. 18 minutes. I looked at my leg, at the bone jutting through fabric and skin, at the blood pooling beneath me, at the pistol in one hand and the empty Kalashnikov in the other. Outside, I heard them, spreading out, searching, room by room, building by building, coming closer. And I understood, really understood for the first time, that I was going to die here. In this room, in this building, in this fucking city. Not in the air, not doing something heroic. On the floor, like a wounded animal, waiting for the hunter. A shadow appeared in the doorway, backlit, man-shaped, rifle in hands. He'd found me.
The man in the doorway hesitated.
That hesitation saved my life. He'd expected a corpse, maybe, or a wounded American too broken to fight. What he got was a cornered animal with a loaded pistol and nothing left to lose. I fired first. 3 rounds, center mass, textbook. The muzzle flash lit up the room like a strobe, bright, disorienting, revealing broken furniture and Arabic newspapers scattered across the floor, and my own shadow cast huge against the back wall.
The first round caught him high in the chest.
The second went wide. My hands were shaking too hard. The third hit his throat. He made a sound. Not a scream, more like a cough. Wet. Surprised.
The Kalashnikov clattered from his hands.
He reached up to his neck, an instinctive gesture trying to hold in what was coming out, but blood poured through his fingers. Black in the dim light, pulsing. Arterial. He took 1 step backward, then another. His legs forgot how to work. He sat down hard on the doorstep, back against the frame, still holding his throat, still trying to understand what had just happened. His eyes found mine. Young eyes, brown, wide with shock, and the dawning understanding that he was dying. He was younger than Jones, maybe 19, baby fat still in his cheeks beneath the wispy attempt at a beard. Someone's son,
Someone's brother.
I watched him die. It took longer than the movies suggest. He didn't slump over dramatically. He just sat there, blood running down his chest, soaking into his clothes, dripping onto the floor. His breathing became wet, labored. He tried to say something, prayer maybe, or a name, but his throat was gone, and all that came out was a gurgle. His eyes stayed on me the whole time, accusing, or maybe just confused. When he finally slumped sideways, when the light left his eyes and he became just meat in the doorway, I realized I was holding my breath. I let it out, sucked in another. The air tasted like cordite and copper. I'd killed a man. No, not a man. I'd killed a kid. My stomach heaved. I turned my head and vomited onto the floor, water and bile and the remains of breakfast coffee burning on the way up. My body tried to reject what I'd done, tried to expel the guilt and the horror and the reality that I'd just ended a human life. But it didn't work. You can't vomit up murder. When the spasms stopped, I wiped my mouth with the back of my hand, tasted acid and blood. Outside, voices erupted. They'd heard the shots. They knew which building.
How many seconds until they rushed in?
10? 5? I looked at the corpse blocking the doorway, at his rifle lying just beyond reach, at the spare magazines on his chest rig. I needed those. Move, move. I dragged myself forward. Every inch was agony. The broken legs screaming protest, the vomit-slicked floor making it hard to gain purchase. I reached the body, had to touch it, had to roll it aside to get to the rifle. The skin was still warm. Of course it was still warm. He'd been alive 30 seconds ago. I grabbed his chest rig, pulled. He was heavier than he looked.
Dead weight.
Literal dead weight. I yanked harder, rolling him onto his side, and his head lolled back, exposing the ruin of his throat. I looked away, grabbed the AK, checked the magazine, half full, maybe 15 rounds. Found 2 more magazines on his belt, pulled them free, checked his pockets, nothing useful. No radio, no grenades, just a photo. Folded, worn at the edges. I didn't look at it, shoved it back in his pocket. He wasn't a person, couldn't be a person. He was a problem I'd solved, an obstacle I'd removed. If I let him be a person, I'd never pull the trigger again. And I'd need to pull the trigger again. The voices outside were organizing. I heard commands being shouted, tactical, methodical. They were setting up a perimeter, covering exits. These weren't random insurgents, these were trained fighters. I was a pilot who'd qualified with small arms twice a year and couldn't remember the last time I'd hit a target at more than 25 meters. The math still didn't work. I looked around the room. One door, the one I'd entered through, now blocked by a corpse. One window, small, high up, covered with rusted bars. No other exits. Trap. Think. Think. You're a pilot. You solve problems. Altitude, speed, fuel, threats. This is just another problem. But it wasn't. In the air, I had options. Altitude, maneuverability, speed.
Down here, I had a broken leg and ammunition I was burning through like it was nothing.
No, count it. Every bullet mattered now. Beretta, 12 rounds left after 3 shots on the first kid. AK from the dead kid. Maybe 15 in the mag plus 2 full spares. 75 rounds total if I was lucky. 87 rounds. Against how many? I didn't know. Too many.
Through the doorway, I could see movement.
Shadows. They were positioning. Someone was giving orders. Calm, professional voice. A commander. Someone who knew what he was doing. They'd rush soon.
Grenade first, probably.
Then follow up with automatic fire. Standard urban assault tactics. I'd seen it from above 100 times. From above, it looked clean, efficient. From inside, waiting for it, it was terror. I couldn't stay here. The window. Barred, but maybe... I pulled myself up using the wall, put weight on the good leg. The broken one hung useless, dragging, a liability in meat and bone. I hopped to the window, reached up. The bars were old, rusted, but solid. I pulled. They didn't budge.
Behind me, I heard the
Distinctive metallic clunk of a grenade pin being pulled.
Oh, fuck. I threw myself away from the door toward the corner,
Covering my head with my arms, pressing against the wall, making myself small, waiting for... The explosion was deafening. Even prepared for it, even covering my ears, the concussion wave felt like a sledgehammer to the skull. The room filled with smoke and dust.
Something hit my back.
Shrapnel maybe, or debris, but the vest caught it. My ears rang, vision blurred, couldn't think, couldn't... Through the smoke, figures appeared. 2, 3, moving fast,
Sweeping with rifles.
Training took over. I didn't think, just acted. Raised the AK, fired, short bursts. 3 rounds, shift. 3 rounds, shift.
The first man went down.
Hit where, I didn't know, didn't care. The second dove for cover. The third returned fire, wild, panicked, spraying the room. I felt impacts.
The wall beside my head exploded in concrete dust.
Something tugged at my sleeve. Something else ricocheted off the floor and hit my boot. I kept firing. The AK bucked against my shoulder.
Hot brass flew.
The room filled with cordite smoke and dust and chaos. The magazine ran dry. I dropped it. Reached for a fresh one. Hands shaking. Dropped it. Fuck! Fuck! Grabbed it from the floor.
Slammed it home.
Charged the bolt. The smoke was clearing. I could see them. 1 dead in the doorway with the first kid. 1 wounded, crawling, leaving a blood trail.
1 pressed against the wall outside, shouting for backup.
Time to move. The wounded one had dropped his rifle. I grabbed it as I crawled past. 2 AKs now. More ammunition, more chances. I dragged myself toward the back of the room. There had to be another way out. A door, a hole, something. These buildings were old, damaged. The war had opened them up like tin cans. There, a doorway I'd missed in the dim light, leading deeper into the building, into darkness. I went through it, into a hallway. Narrow, trash on the floor, bullet holes in the walls.
It smelled like piss and rot and abandonment.
Doors on either side, some open, some closed. Dark rooms, unknown rooms, potential ambush points. Behind me, voices. They were coming,
Following my blood trail.
I was leaving a breadcrumb trail straight to me, impossible to hide, impossible to cover. Every few feet, a dark spot where I'd dragged the broken leg.
A snail trail of my own body.
I had to get off the ground floor. Higher was better, harder to surround, better fields of fire. Stairs. There, at the end of the hall, steep, narrow.
Leading up into more darkness.
I started climbing. Climbing is the wrong word. I pulled myself up 1 step at a time, using my arms, dragging the dead weight of my leg behind me.
Each step was a mountain.
Each movement cost me. Blood loss, shock, exhaustion, all adding up. My vision tunneled, gray at the edges, not good. Blood loss doing its work. Second floor. I emerged into another hallway. Lighter here. The roof had taken damage. holes letting in afternoon sun. I could see sky, birds circling, vultures probably, or maybe just crows. Hard to tell. Room to my right, door hanging off hinges. I crawled inside. Bedroom, or had been. Mattress on the floor, stained. Dresser overturned. Children's toys scattered. A doll with one arm. A plastic truck missing wheels. Someone had lived here. A family. Real people. Gone now. Dead or fled or hiding in some refugee camp in Syria. Their house was my fortress now. I positioned myself in the corner. Could see the door. Could see the window. This one without bars, just broken glass. Could see the street 2 stories below. And I could see them. Dozens. Maybe 50 fighters. More arriving. Drawn by the crash, by the smoke, by the sounds of gunfire. They were surrounding the building, setting up positions, bringing weapons, RPGs, machine guns. This wasn't a search party anymore. This was a siege. My radio crackled. Raven 3-6, Outlaw 2-1, QRF is en route. 15 minutes. Can you mark your position? 15 minutes. I'd been on the ground for 3 minutes. 3 minutes. It felt like hours. I keyed the radio, whispered, "Second floor, northeast corner. Taking heavy contact. Estimate 50+ hostiles. My voice cracked. I'm pinned down. Copy that. Hold tight. Apache inbound to provide cover. 2 mics out. 2 minutes until air support. 15 until rescue. I could do 2 minutes. Maybe. Below, on the street, I saw them organizing. A man in the center, older, gray beard, tactical vest, giving orders, pointing, directing fire teams. He knew what he was doing. Military training. Maybe former Iraqi army. Maybe foreign fighter with actual combat experience. He was going to kill me. Not personally. He'd send his men. Wave after wave, probing, testing, until they found my position. Until they flanked me. Until they overwhelmed me. It was just math. I checked my ammunition. 1 full magazine in the AK, 1 partial in the other. I'd burned through most of what I'd scavenged in that ground floor firefight. Maybe 40 rounds left between both rifles. Pistol with 1 magazine, 12 rounds. 52 rounds against 50 men. The math didn't work, unless... The window. If I could get to a different position. Keep moving, make them chase me through the building. Buy time, buy those 15 minutes. I pulled myself to the window, looked out, looked down, and saw him looking up. Young fighter, standing in the street, searching windows. His eyes swept across, found mine, locked. For 1 frozen moment, we stared at each other. Him on the street, me at the window, 20 feet apart, 1,000,000 miles apart. He smiled. Then he raised his AK and fired. I dropped as bullets tore through the window frame. Wood splinters exploded, glass shattered, rounds punched through the thin walls like they were paper. I rolled away from the window. Too slow. Something punched my side. Hot, sharp, immediate. I looked down. My vest had caught it. The round was embedded in the Kevlar plate. Didn't penetrate, but the impact had cracked a rib. I could feel it. Grinding. Wrong. Breathing hurt now. Everything hurt. I heard footsteps. On the stairs. Coming up. Fast. They were rushing the building. I raised the AK, pointed it at the door, waited. This was it. The last stand. The Alamo. Custer's last stand. All the stupid heroic bullshit that sounded good in movies, but in reality was just dying alone in a dirty room in a city that didn't care. The first man appeared in the doorway. I fired. He dropped. Second man. Fired. Dropped. Third. The AK clicked empty. I dropped it, grabbed the second one, kept firing. Fourth man fell. Fifth was smarter. Threw something. Grenade. I saw it bounce. Had maybe 2 seconds. I rolled toward the far wall, covered my head, prayed. The explosion lifted me off the floor, slammed me into the wall, ears screaming, vision white. Couldn't breathe, couldn't... When I could see again, the room was destroyed. The floor had partially collapsed. The doorway was gone, just rubble. The window was gone, just a gaping hole. And I was on fire. Not really. My vest was smoldering, something burning. I beat at it with my hands. Put it out! Skin on my palms blistered. Didn't matter. Everything was pain now. One more source didn't register. Through the hole where the window used to be, I heard it. The most beautiful sound in the world. The thump, thump, thump of helicopter rotors. Apache. I crawled to the hole, looked out, looked up. There, an Apache gunship, nose down, aggressive, scanning for targets. My guardian angel, my salvation. I grabbed my radio, keyed it. Apache, Apache, this is Raven 3-6. I'm in the building, second floor, northeast corner. Danger close, danger fucking close. Light 'em up. The Apache pilot's voice came back. Calm, professional, beautiful. Copy, Raven. We have visual. Engaging hostiles. Keep your head down. The 30mm chain gun opened up. The sound was like the world tearing in half. Each round was explosive. Each impact was a small bomb. The Apache walked fire across the street, across the building next door, across the fighters below. I watched them die, watched them scatter, watched the street turn into a killing field. And I felt nothing. No guilt, no horror, no humanity, just cold satisfaction. They'd tried to kill me. Now they were dying instead. Simple math. The radio. Raven, QRF is 1 block north. Can you move to them? Can you walk? I looked at my leg, at the bone still jutting through the skin, at the blood, at the disaster that used to be my body. Negative, I said. I can't walk. I can barely crawl. Copy. They're coming to you. Hold position. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. I'd survived 15. I could do 2 more. Below, the Apache was still firing, suppressing, keeping them pinned, keeping them away. But they weren't giving up. They were flanking, moving building to building, getting closer. They wanted me, the American pilot, the prize, the propaganda victory. I checked my weapons. Pistol, 12 rounds. That was it. Everything else was empty or gone or buried in rubble. 12 rounds. Enough to kill 12 of them, or enough to save one for myself. I'd heard the stories, what they did to captured Americans, the videos, the beheadings, the torture. I looked at the pistol in my hand, imagined pressing it under my chin, pulling the trigger, ending it clean, on my terms. But I couldn't. Not yet. Not while there was still a chance. Sarah, Katie, Mark. I'd promised to come home. I was going to keep that promise, or die trying. The radio. Raven, Marines are entering the building. Ground floor, sound off. Second floor! I screamed it, loud as I could. Second floor, northeast corner! Footsteps, heavy, fast. American boots, American voices. Clear left, moving up. Got stairs! They were coming. My brothers were coming. I heard them hit the second floor, heard them clearing rooms, getting closer. American! I shouted. Friendly! Don't shoot! A Marine appeared in the rubble-choked doorway. Young, scared, rifle up, finger on trigger. He saw me, saw the blood, saw the leg, saw the broken man with a pistol who used to be a pilot. Jesus Christ, he breathed. Doc! DOC! We got him! More Marines poured in. A medic dropped beside me, started working, cutting my pant leg, examining the wound, shouting for a stretcher. Can you walk? One Marine asked. I almost laughed. Does it look like I can fucking walk? Fair point. He keyed his radio. Outlaw 6, this is incoming fire. From the building across the street, AK rounds, RPG trail. The Marines returned fire. The room exploded with muzzle flashes and shouting and chaos. We need to move, someone yelled. This building's gonna collapse. Hands grabbed me, lifted me. I screamed. The leg, oh fuck, the leg. But they didn't stop. Couldn't stop. They carried me. Down the stairs, through the hallway, through the rubble, into the street, into hell. The street was a war zone. Humvees, Marines firing. Apache overhead still engaging targets. Smoke, chaos, the smell of war, cordite and blood and burning. They threw me into the back of a Humvee. The medic jumped in after, started an IV, jabbed me with something. Morphine. Sweet, beautiful morphine. The pain began to fade, replaced by warmth, by distance, by fog. The Humvee lurched forward. We were moving, driving fast, too fast. The ride was rough. Every bump was agony, even through the morphine. But we were moving away, away from the crash site, away from the building,
Away from the bodies.
I'd survived. 18 minutes on the ground, 5 men dead by my hand. Maybe more. I'd lost count. I was alive. They were dead. Simple fucking math. The morphine was lying to me. It whispered that everything was fine, that the pain wasn't real, that the shattered bone jutting through my leg was just a bad dream, that the blood soaking through the medic's bandages was ketchup, movie prop blood, nothing to worry about. The morphine was a fucking liar, but I loved it anyway. The Humvee hit a pothole. My body lifted off the stretcher, came down hard. The impact sent lightning through the fog. I screamed, or tried to. What came out was more of a whimper. "Easy, sir, easy." The medic, couldn't see his face clearly, everything was soft around the edges, pressed down on my shoulders. "We're almost there, just hold on." Almost where? I'd lost track, lost time. The morphine had smoothed out the minutes into a continuous smear of sensation and confusion. Outside, gunfire. Continuous. The .50 caliber on the Humvee turret was hammering away. I could feel it through the vehicle's frame, rhythmic thumping that made my teeth rattle. "Contact right!" someone shouted. The Humvee swerved, hard. I slid across the stretcher. The medic caught me before I rolled off. His hands were red, gloved in my blood. How much had I lost? Too much, probably. The IV bag swayed above me, feeding saline into my arm, trying to replace what was draining out my leg. Math problem. If a pilot loses blood at X rate, and saline replaces it at Y rate, and X is greater than Y, how long until the pilot dies? Show your work.
Stay with me, Captain.
The medic's face swam into focus. Young, Hispanic, probably younger than the kid I'd killed. "What's your name?" "Coleman." My tongue felt thick. "Daniel Coleman, Captain."
Serial number?
"I don't need your serial number, sir. I need you to stay awake. Tell me about your family." Family. Sarah, Katie, Mark. The photo taped to my console.
Was it still there?
Had it burned? "Wife," I mumbled. 2 kids. Sarah's. She's beautiful. They're good kids. Smart. Katie wants to be an astronaut. Mark wants to be, I don't remember, something with dinosaurs. That's good. That's real good. You're gonna see them again, you hear me? You're gonna see them. Was I? The math still didn't work. Too much blood gone. Too much damage done. And even if I survived, even if I made it to a hospital, to surgery, to recovery, would I be the same man who left? Could you crawl through hell and come out unchanged? The Humvee's engine screamed. We were going fast. Too fast for city streets. The driver was taking risks. That meant we were in trouble. "How bad is it?" I asked the medic. "You're gonna be fine." "Bullshit!" "How bad?" He hesitated. In that hesitation, I knew. "Compound fracture," he said finally. "Tibia and fibula both broken. Bone through the skin means high infection risk. You've lost a lot of blood. But you're alive. You made it out. That's what matters." Alive. I was alive. Jones wasn't. Sanchez wasn't. Mitchell. I still didn't know about Mitchell. Probably not. 3 men dead. Maybe 4, counting the gunner I'd killed in the building during the firefight. 5 if you counted the kid in the doorway. Maybe more. The numbers were getting confused. I'd killed them all. No, that wasn't right. I'd killed some. The crash killed others. The insurgents killed Sanchez. But it all traced back to me. I was the pilot. My bird. My crew. My responsibility. My failure. Sir, stay with me." I drifted. The morphine pulling me down into darkness. Comfortable darkness. Safe darkness. "Can't sleep," the medic said. "Not yet. Not with that head wound." Head wound? I had a head wound? I tried to reach up to touch my head. The medic caught my hand. "Don't! You cracked your helmet. Probably have a concussion. Maybe worse. We need to keep you awake until we can get you to a dock." The Humvee lurched again. More gunfire. Closer now. Rounds pinging off armor. "Jesus Christ, there's fucking hundreds of them!" The driver's voice panicked. "Just drive!" The Marine in the turret shouting over the 50 cal. "Just fucking drive!" Through the small window, bulletproof glass, spiderwebbed with cracks, I could see the street blurring past. Figures, muzzle flashes. The city trying one last time to kill me.
How far? Someone asked.
2 blocks. Landing zone is 2 blocks. 2 blocks. The length of a football field. Nothing. But in Fallujah, 2 blocks was a lifetime. The radio crackled. "Outlaw 2-1, this is Dustoff 3-6. We have your beacon. LZ is hot. I repeat, LZ is hot. We need suppression fire." "Copy, Dustoff. We're bringing the rain." The Humvee's turret gun went cyclic. The saw gunner in the back joined in. The noise was incredible. Overlapping hammers of sound that made thinking impossible. And then, louder than everything, a roar that I felt in my chest. Aircraft, multiple, low and fast. Through the window I saw the shadow pass overhead. Apache. No, 2 Apaches. Guardian angels painted in olive drab. The 30mm chain guns opened up. The street ahead disappeared in explosions. Buildings disintegrated. Vehicles exploded. Anyone stupid enough to be standing in the open simply ceased to exist. Danger close didn't begin to describe it. The Apaches were firing within 50 meters of our vehicle. Any closer and we'd be eating our own fire support. But it worked. The return fire stopped. The insurgents broke, ran, died. The Humvee accelerated. Final sprint. 2 blocks became 1. 1 became 100 yards. 50. 25. We stopped. Doors opened. Hands grabbed me, lifted. The stretcher came out of the Humvee and I was moving again, carried by 4 Marines, running across open ground. I saw the sky. Clear. Blue. Beautiful. I saw the helicopter. Black Hawk. Rotors turning. Crew chief waving us in. I saw tracer rounds arcing overhead, outgoing fire covering our withdrawal. And I saw the street we'd just escaped. Bodies, burning vehicles, destruction, all of it behind me now. They loaded me into the Black Hawk, strapped the stretcher down. The medic climbed in after, still holding the IV bag, still checking my vitals. More wounded were loaded beside me. Marines, blood-soaked bandages, missing limbs, 1 silent and 2 still. The crew chief slapped the bulkhead twice. Signal. The pilot pulled collective. We lifted. That moment, when the ground fell away, when we transitioned from earthbound to airborne, I felt it in my soul. Release, escape, salvation. I was flying again. Not as a pilot, as cargo, as a casualty, but flying nonetheless. The Black Hawk climbed aggressively, banking, twisting, evasive maneuvers. The pilot was good, keeping us unpredictable, making us a hard target. Below, Fallujah shrank. The streets where I'd crawled, the building where I'd killed, the courtyard where I'd crashed, all becoming abstract, distant, a map again, not real. Except it was real. My leg was real. The bodies were real. The blood on my hands, literal and figurative, was real. I'd survived 18 minutes on the ground in Fallujah. 18 minutes that felt like 18 years. 18 minutes that changed everything. The crew chief appeared beside me, young face, concerned eyes. He leaned close, shouting over the rotor noise. "You're gonna be okay! We're 5 minutes from the hospital!" I nodded. Couldn't speak. Throat was too tight. Eyes were burning. I wasn't crying, definitely not crying. Combat pilots don't cry. But something was leaking from my eyes anyway. Might have been sweat, or morphine side effects, or relief so overwhelming it had to escape somehow. The medic was still working, checking the tourniquet on my leg, adjusting the IV, taking my blood pressure. His lips were moving, probably talking to me, but I couldn't hear over the rotors. I looked past him, out the door, at the city falling away below. Somewhere down there, 5 men were dead because of me. 5 men who'd woken up this morning with plans, with families, with futures. Gone now, erased, because they'd tried to kill me and I'd killed them first. That's what war was, really. Not the grand strategy, not the politics, just math. Us versus them. Kill or be killed.
The simplest, oldest equation in human history.
I'd done the math. I'd survived the math. But surviving wasn't the same as winning. The Black Hawk began its descent. I felt the change in my stomach, that familiar drop, that transition from flight to landing. The crew chief was back, helping secure equipment, preparing for touchdown. Through the door, I saw the hospital. Forward operating base, big tents, helipads marked with red crosses, ambulances waiting, medical personnel in scrubs standing by. We flared, settled, touchdown, controlled, professional, perfect landing. Everything my crash wasn't. The doors opened, organized chaos, medical teams swarmed, wounded were triaged. The silent Marine, the too still one, was taken first. Rush priority, probably wouldn't matter. Death has its own schedule. They pulled my stretcher out, into the sunlight, into the heat, into the smell of disinfectant and blood and salvation. A doctor appeared above me, older, gray hair, tired eyes that had seen too much. He lifted my eyelids, shined a light, checked the tag the medic had attached to my vest. "Captain Coleman, welcome back. You're safe now. We're going to take care of you." Safe. Was anywhere safe? Would anywhere ever be safe again? They hauled me into a tent. Bright lights, clean air, organized, controlled. The opposite of the chaos I'd left behind. Nurses cut away my flight suit, my vest, my boots, exposing the damage, cataloging the wounds. Broken leg, cracked ribs, lacerations, bruises, concussion, burns, dehydration, blood loss. The list went on. One nurse, older woman, kind face, southern accent, held my hand. "You're gonna be okay, honey. We've got you. You're safe." I wanted to believe her, but safe was a relative term. My body was safe. My crew was dead. My helicopter was scrap metal. My innocence, if I'd had any, was ash. I was safe, but I wasn't okay. Would never be okay again. The doctor returned. "We're taking you to surgery. That leg needs immediate attention. You understand?" I nodded. "We're going to put you under. When you wake up, you'll be in recovery. Your family has been notified. They know you're alive." Alive. That word again. I'd survived when better men hadn't. Why? Luck, skill, God's will, or just math, random chance. The chaos of war sorting souls into categories, dead and not dead. I'd landed in the not dead column, for now. An anesthesiologist appeared, syringe in hand. "Okay, Captain, I'm going to give you something to help you sleep. Count backward from 10. I started counting. 10, 9. I thought of Sarah, of Katie, of Mark. 8. I thought of Jones, his neck at the wrong angle. 7. I thought of Sanchez, his last words. Go. 6. I thought of the kid in the doorway, his eyes. 5. I thought of the men I'd killed, the math I'd done. 4. I thought of 18 minutes, an eternity compressed into a heartbeat. 3. I thought of the crash, the fall, the fear. 2. I thought darkness, clean, complete, absolute, no dream, no nightmares, just void. The math finally balanced. I'd survived, but the cost was still being calculated. I woke up screaming. Not awake, not really. Somewhere between surgery and consciousness, between anesthesia and reality. A gray space where nightmares bleed into the waking world. I was back in the building, second floor, the kid in the doorway looking at me with dying eyes. Except this time he wouldn't die. He kept coming, blood pouring from his throat but still coming, reaching for me, mouth moving, trying to say something, trying to ask why. Captain Coleman, you're safe. You're in the hospital. A voice, female, calm, cutting through the nightmare like a lifeline thrown to a drowning man. I grabbed for it, my eyes opened. Wrong! Everything was wrong! The light was too bright, the room was too white.
The smells were wrong.
Antiseptic and clean instead of cordite and blood and death. Where was I? Easy, don't try to move. The nurse, the one with the southern accent, was beside me,
Her hand on my shoulder.
gentle but firm. You're at the field hospital. You came out of surgery 2 hours ago. Surgery, right, the leg. I looked down. My right leg was encased in a cast from knee to ankle, elevated. Wrapped in so much gauze and plaster it looked like a white club. Pins stuck out at odd angles. External fixation, holding the shattered bone together while it tried to remember how to be a bone. How bad? My voice came out as a croak, throat raw from the breathing tube. You're alive.
That's what matters.
She adjusted my IV. The surgeons did good work, set the fracture, cleaned out the wound. You've got hardware in there now, pins, screws, plates.
You're gonna set off metal detectors for the rest of your life.
Rest of my life. As if I'd get to have a rest of my life. My crew. Her face changed, the professional smile fading. She'd been waiting for this question, dreading it. I'm sorry. Lieutenant Jones was killed in the crash. Specialists Sanchez and Mitchell didn't make it out. Didn't make it out. Polite military speak for burned alive or shot to death or blown apart. Didn't make it out. All three gone. My crew. My responsibility. My fault. I left them. The words came out flat. Dead. I left Sanchez. He was alive. I heard him. I left him. Captain, I fucking left him and he burned. She didn't try to argue, didn't offer platitudes. Just let me sit with it. The guilt, the truth. The math that said I'd chosen my life over theirs. Simple fucking math. Time passed. Could have been minutes. Could have been hours. The morphine drip kept me floating just above the pain.
Not enough to make me comfortable.
Just enough to keep me from screaming. Other patients surrounded me, separated by curtains. I could hear them, moaning, crying. One was praying in Spanish, another was silent. That terrible silence that meant unconscious or dying or already gone. This was the harvest. What war produced. Broken bodies in white beds. Young men turned into patients. Warriors turned into casualties. The doctors came and went, checking wounds, adjusting medications, explaining procedures I only half understood. Something about infection risk, antibiotic protocols, physical therapy, possible complications. Words, just words, floating past me like debris in a river. The only words that mattered were the ones I couldn't say. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I left you. I'm sorry I survived when you didn't. I'm sorry I'm not sorry enough. Because underneath the guilt, underneath the horror, was something else. Something dark and primal and true. Relief. I was alive. They were dead. And part of me, the animal part, the part that had crawled through garbage and killed without hesitation, was glad. Glad it was them and not me. That was the truth I couldn't admit. The truth that made the guilt worse because it wasn't pure guilt. It was guilt mixed with gratitude. And that mixture was poison. Night came. The tent lights dimmed. The chaos of the day settled into the quieter horror of the night shift. Patients slept, or tried to. Some cried out in their sleep. Others whispered to themselves or to gods who probably weren't listening. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I was back there, in the courtyard, in the building, in the moment before the trigger pull, in the second after, in the eternal space between killing and understanding what I'd killed. The nurse, different one now, younger, brought sleeping pills. I refused them. You need to rest, sir. No, no pills. Because if I slept, I'd dream, and the dreams were worse than exhaustion. So I stayed awake, stared at the tent ceiling, counted the support poles, listened to the generators humming outside. Anything to keep my mind occupied, anything to keep from thinking about Captain Coleman, a chaplain, Had to be.
They always came at night.
When the wounded were alone with their thoughts, when faith was the only weapon left against despair. He was young, probably fresh out of seminary, wearing camouflage and a cross. Two symbols that shouldn't go together but did. War made strange marriages. "I'm Father McKenna. I wanted to check on you." "I'm fine." "Are you?" I looked at him, really looked. He had kind eyes, sad eyes, eyes that had seen too many men die and was trying to find God in the carnage. "No," I said, because lying to a chaplain seemed pointless.
"No, I'm not fine."
He pulled up a chair, sat, didn't speak, just sat, waiting. I didn't want to talk, didn't want to confess, didn't want to hear about God's plan or divine purpose or any of the comfortable lies people tell when confronted with random violence. But the silence was worse than talking.
"I killed them,"
I said. 5 men, maybe more. I lost count. And I don't feel what I'm supposed to feel." "What are you supposed to feel?" "I don't know, remorse, horror, something. But all I feel is—" I trailed off, couldn't find the words. "Alive?" he suggested. I nodded. "That's normal. You survived. Your brain is protecting you. Processing trauma takes time. What you're feeling or not feeling doesn't make you a monster. Doesn't it?" He was quiet for a moment. Then, "Can I tell you something? Something they don't teach in chaplain school?" "Sure." "War doesn't make monsters. It reveals what we're capable of becoming. You did what you had to do to survive. That doesn't make you evil. It makes you human." "I don't feel human." "No, you feel like a soldier. There's a difference." Was there? I wasn't sure anymore. The line between soldier and killer, between warrior and murderer, seemed awfully thin from where I was lying. Father McKenna stayed for a while longer. We talked. Or he talked and I listened. About faith. About forgiveness. About the long road back from war. I didn't believe most of it, but I appreciated him trying. When he left, I was alone again. Alone with the sounds of the tent, the smells, the weight of what I'd done and what had been done to me. Days blurred together. More surgery. They had to go back in. Infection had started despite the antibiotics. They cleaned it out, removed dead tissue, inserted more hardware. The leg that used to fly helicopters was now held together with more metal than bone. Physical therapy started. A sergeant built like a tank named Rodriguez. He was cheerful in that aggressive way physical therapists are, like pain was character building. "Come on, Captain, let's see you put weight on it." I stood, or tried to. The leg screamed, my vision grayed. I sat back down hard. "Good, that's good. Tomorrow we'll try again." Tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that. Small victories measured in inches, standing, walking with crutches, making it to the bathroom without help, rebuilding the machine that used to be my body.
But what about rebuilding the man?
The brass came. Colonel Harris, looking uncomfortable, offering condolences, telling me about the Silver Star recommendation, about heroism, about duty. I listened, nodded in the right places. Didn't tell him that I hadn't been heroic. I'd been terrified. That I'd killed because the alternative was dying. That there was nothing noble about 18 minutes of animal survival. He left the metal paperwork. I threw it away. Other visitors came, guys from my unit, offering support, bringing magazines and snacks and stories from the FOB, trying to keep my spirits up. I appreciated it, I did, but I couldn't connect, couldn't engage. There was a pane of glass between us. They were on one side, the side of the living, the unbroken, the ones who could still function, and I was on the other, looking out, looking in, but always separate. Word came about the investigation, standard procedure after a crash. They'd recovered the Black Hawk, or what was left of it. The black box was damaged but readable. The report concluded, enemy fire, catastrophic damage to tail rotor assembly. No pilot error, no pilot error. I was officially not to blame, except I was. I'd flown into a hot zone. I'd descended when I should have stayed high. I'd been so fucking confident, so certain in my invincibility, that I'd made myself a target. 63 successful missions had made me arrogant. The 64th had made me a casualty. 3 weeks post-crash, they told me I was being evacuated to Landstuhl, Germany. Better facilities, better care, one step closer to home. I should have been relieved, grateful. Instead, I felt nothing. The morphine had worn off by then. They'd switched me to oral painkillers. Less fog, more clarity. And with clarity came the full weight of everything that had happened. The night before the flight to Germany, I couldn't sleep. Again. I stared at the tent ceiling. Again. Counted the support poles. Again. And I made a decision. If I was going home, if I was going to survive this physically, I needed to survive it mentally. I needed to process, to understand, to somehow integrate 18 minutes of hell into the rest of my life. I needed to stop running from it. I closed my eyes, and for the first time since the crash, I let myself remember. Not fragments, not flashes, the whole thing, start to finish. The briefing, the takeoff, the flight, the RPG, the fall, the crash, the crawl, the kills, the blood, the fear, the rescue, all of it. I walked through the memory like walking through a house, opening doors, looking in rooms, not flinching away, not hiding, seeing it, accepting it. This happened. This was real. This was me. And when I reached the end, when I got to the part where the Humvee drove away and the city fell behind and I was safe, I opened my eyes. The tent was still there. The other patients still breathing or not breathing. The war still happening outside. But something had shifted. Inside me. Some small thing, not healing, not forgiveness, just acknowledgement. I'd survived. That was step one. Everything else would have to wait. The next morning, they loaded me onto a C-130 cargo plane, me and 24 other wounded, some worse than me, some better. All of us going home, or at least going somewhere that wasn't Iraq. The plane took off, climbed, leveled out at altitude. I looked out the small window at Iraq falling away below, the desert, the rivers, the cities. From up here, it looked peaceful, beautiful even. From up here, you couldn't see the blood. I turned away from the window, closed my eyes, let the drone of the engines lull me into something like sleep. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't dream of the crash. I dreamed of flying, not falling, not dying, just flying, free. Germany smelled different than Iraq. That was the first thing I noticed when they rolled me off the C-130 at Ramstein Air Base. The air was cool, damp. It smelled like rain and grass and civilization. No cordite, no burning, no death baked into the dust. It smelled like a place where people didn't die every day. I hated it. The hatred was irrational. I knew that. Germany was safety. Germany was medical care. Germany was one step closer to Sarah and the kids. I should have been grateful, but gratitude required feeling something. And I'd gone numb somewhere over the Mediterranean. They transferred us by bus to Landstuhl Regional Medical Center. The journey was smooth, paved roads, traffic laws. Other cars filled with people going about normal lives, grocery shopping, going to work, existing in a world where the most dangerous thing they'd face today was bad coffee. I watched them through the window. Civilians, the protected, the ones we'd volunteered to bleed for. They had no idea what their protection cost. Landstuhl was massive. Not a tent city, but an actual hospital. Modern, clean. The wounded from Iraq and Afghanistan flowed through it like water, arriving broken, getting patched up, either returning to duty or going home. A factory for repairing soldiers. I wondered what their success rate was. For bodies? Probably high. For minds? That was a different calculation. They put me in a private room. Actual walls, a real bed, a window overlooking a courtyard with trees and benches and birds that weren't vultures. It should have been comforting. It felt wrong, too quiet, too safe, too far from the war that was still happening without me. Survivor's guilt, the psychologist would later tell me, as if naming it made it better. The medical staff at Landstuhl were efficient. They'd seen thousands of wounded come through. I was just another broken pilot with a shattered leg and a cracked skull. Routine, almost. More surgery. The third. They weren't happy with how the bone was setting. Infection risk was still high despite the antibiotics. They went back in, adjusted the hardware, removed more dead tissue, started talking about skin grafts. I stopped listening to the details. Just let them do what they needed to do. My leg was a problem to be solved, an engineering challenge. I was just the meat attached to it. Physical therapy was more aggressive here. Rodriguez had been gentle compared to the German-American therapist they assigned me. Sergeant First Class Mueller, built like she bench-pressed tanks for fun. You want to walk again, Captain? Then walk. I'm trying. Try harder. Pain is temporary. Being a cripple is forever. She wasn't cruel, just honest. And honest was what I needed even if I hated it. I walked, limped, hobbled, dragged myself up and down hallways on crutches until my hands blistered and my good leg screamed, and the broken one decided to remind me it was full of metal and bad decisions. Small victories, 10 feet, 20, 50, 100. Each step was a negotiation with my body, each movement a reminder of what I'd lost. I used to fly. Now I could barely walk. The math was depressing. Sarah called daily. The time difference made it awkward. Early morning for her, late evening for me, but she called anyway. How are you feeling? Better. Getting stronger. Lies. Comfortable lies. The truth, that I felt like I was drowning on dry land, that I couldn't sleep without seeing dead faces, that I'd killed 5 men and couldn't remember if I felt bad about it, would only hurt her. So I lied. She told me about the kids. Katie had lost another tooth. Mark had learned to ride his bike without training wheels. Normal life. Beautiful life. Life that was happening in a world I no longer belonged to. The kids miss you. They made cards. I'll send pictures. That's great. Tell them I miss them too. Did I? I couldn't tell anymore. Emotions had become theoretical. Things I knew I should feel but couldn't quite access. Like trying to remember a song you used to know but the melody was gone and only the idea remained. Danny? Her voice was different. Careful. Are you okay? Really okay? Yeah, just tired. The painkillers make me fuzzy. Another lie. I'd stopped taking the heavy painkillers days ago. The fog was worse than the pain. At least pain was honest. I love you, she said. Love you too. The words felt hollow. Not because they weren't true. They were, somewhere deep down where I couldn't reach. But because love required being present, being human, being something more than a collection of trauma and broken bone. I wasn't sure I was human anymore. After we hung up, I sat in the dark, staring at nothing. The room was silent except for the hum of medical equipment and distant sounds of the hospital at night. I thought about Jones, about his neck at the wrong angle, about how he'd looked at me in that last second before impact, not afraid, just surprised, like he couldn't believe this was really happening. I thought about Sanchez, about his eyes when I'd left him, about the screaming that had stopped too quickly. I thought about Mitchell, about how I hadn't even seen what happened to him. He'd just been gone. And I thought about the men I'd killed. The 5, or was it 6? I'd lost count in the chaos who died because I'd pulled a trigger or because I'd been in the wrong place at the wrong time. They had families too. Kids maybe, wives, mothers who'd never know what happened to their sons except that Americans had killed them in a city that had become a graveyard. The math didn't balance. No matter how I calculated it, 5 of them, 3 of mine, 8 dead, 1 alive. Why me? Luck? Skill? Divine intervention? Or just chaos? Random chance. The coin flip of war that said you live and you die. And there's no reason, no purpose, no grand plan. Just physics and probability and the cold indifference of the universe. I preferred that explanation. It hurt less than believing God had chosen me over better men. Days passed, then weeks. The leg healed, slowly, grudgingly, like it resented being asked to function again. Other wounded came and went. I talked to some, listened to their stories. Everyone had a story. Everyone had 18 minutes, or 18 hours, or 18 days that had changed everything. A Marine from Ramadi who'd lost both legs to an IED. He was cheerful, optimistic, talked about prosthetics like they were an upgrade. "Fucking legs never worked right anyway," he joked. I envied his resilience. An army specialist who'd taken shrapnel to the face. Half his jaw was reconstructed metal. He couldn't talk right, could barely eat, but he was alive and grateful for it. I envied his gratitude. A Navy corpsman who'd held his best friend while he bled out, who'd tried everything, tourniquets, pressure, prayer, and watched him die anyway, who hadn't spoken since. Him, I understood. The psychologist came weekly. Captain Morrison, older guy, civilian contractor, probably made good money listening to soldiers confess their sins. "How are you sleeping?" "Fine." "Nightmares?" "Sometimes." "Want to talk about what happened?" "Not really." He nodded, wrote notes, didn't push. That was the thing about military psych. They couldn't force you to engage. Could only document that you'd refused help. CYA for when you inevitably broke down later. "The offer stands," he said. "Whenever you're ready." I wasn't ready. Might never be ready. Talking meant reliving. Reliving meant feeling. Feeling meant breaking. And I couldn't break. Not yet. Not here. Not where people could see. 6 weeks post-crash, they told me I was going home. Walter Reed National Military Medical Center in Bethesda, Maryland. Final stop on the Wounded Warrior Assembly Line. "You'll continue physical therapy there," the doctor said. "Long-term prognosis is good. You'll have a limp, chronic pain probably, but you'll walk. You'll have a life." A life. What kind of life? Not the one I'd had. That man, the pilot, the confident warrior, the husband and father who'd existed before November 12th, was gone. Who was I now? The question terrified me more than the crash had. The night before my flight to the States, I couldn't sleep. Again. I'd gotten used to insomnia. It was familiar now, an old friend. I got out of bed, grabbed the crutches, made my way down the hallway, past the nurses' station. They knew me by now, knew I wandered at night, didn't try to stop me anymore, to the stairwell. I climbed, slowly, awkwardly. The crutches weren't designed for stairs and my leg protested every step. But I climbed anyway, to the roof. Launchstool had roof access for staff, technically off limits to patients. But the door was never locked and nobody enforced the rule. Too many wounded needed this space, this air, this view of sky without constraints. I wasn't alone. A soldier, Army from his PT uniform, sat on the ledge. Young, maybe 25. Both arms ended at the elbow. Prosthetics sat beside him, removed. Just stumps and starlight. He looked over as I hobbled out, nodded. "Captain." "Evening. Can't sleep?" "Never can." He turned back to the view. The base spread out below. Lights, buildings, civilization. Beyond that, German countryside. Dark, peaceful, unaware that people like us existed. "You know what I miss?" he said after a while. "Flying. I was a crew chief. Black Hawks. Loved it up there. The freedom, the perspective. Everything made sense from altitude." My throat tightened. "Yeah. Can't do it anymore. Can't work the guns without hands. Can't do the pre-flight checks. Can't do any of it." He laughed, bitter but not angry. "Funny how fast your whole life can change. One IED, 3 seconds, everything gone." "I'm sorry." "Don't be. I'm alive. That's more than a lot of guys can say." He looked at his stumps. "I just need to figure out what alive means now. Who I am without the thing that made me me." I sat down beside him, carefully. The leg didn't like bending, but I made it work. "You figure it out yet?" I asked. "Nope. You?" "Nope." We sat in silence. Two broken soldiers on a roof in Germany, looking at stars that didn't care whether we lived or died, whether we healed or stayed broken, whether we found meaning in the chaos or drowned in it. "Here's what I think," he said eventually.
We don't get to be who we were.
That's gone. But maybe we get to be something new, something different. Maybe better, maybe worse, but something. You sound like a therapist. Fuck therapists. They don't know shit, he grinned. But they're not wrong about everything. I looked at him, at the stumps, at the scars, at the face that had seen things no 25-year-old should see. What's your name? Rodriguez. Miguel Rodriguez. I almost laughed. You related to a PT sergeant? My brother. He's torturing people down in the gym, I assume. Yeah, he's good at it. Family tradition. We're all sadists. He stood, picked up his prosthetics, started attaching them with practiced ease. I'm heading down, early flight tomorrow. Going home to Texas. Gonna figure out who Miguel Rodriguez is when he's not Crew Chief Rodriguez. Good luck. You too, Captain. Whatever you're fighting, inside, outside, wherever, I hope you win. He left. I stayed. Sat on that roof. Watched the stars. Thought about who I'd been and who I might become. And whether the distance between those two versions was too far to cross. The sun rose eventually. It always did. Even when you were sure darkness would last forever, the sun came up. Indifferent. Reliable. Honest. I watched the sky turn from black to gray to blue. My last sunrise in Germany. Tomorrow I'd go home. Tomorrow I'd see Sarah and the kids. Tomorrow I'd start the harder war. The one against myself. The one with no front lines and no clear victory conditions. The one that would last the rest of my life. But tonight, this morning, I just sat, watched the sun, felt the cool air. And for one moment, one brief moment, I felt something close to peace. It wouldn't last, I knew that. The nightmares would come back, the guilt, the questions, the endless replay of 18 minutes that had destroyed everything. But for now, for this moment, I was just a man watching a sunrise. Not a soldier, not a killer, not a victim, just a man. And maybe that was enough to start with. The plane touched down at Andrews Air Force Base on a gray December afternoon. I'd been gone 4 months. It felt like 4 years. Through the window, I saw America, my country, the place I'd sworn to defend. From up here, even on final approach, it looked clean, ordered, safe. Nothing like the chaos I'd left behind. I should have felt relief, homecoming, the end of deployment. Instead, I felt like an imposter, like I was sneaking back into a world I no longer belonged to. The plane taxied, stopped. The other passengers, mostly military, some civilian contractors, began gathering their things. Normal travel sounds. Overhead bins opening, people talking, phones coming out to call loved ones. I stayed seated, let them go ahead. Moving was harder now. The leg didn't bend right. Getting up required planning, execution, pain management. A flight attendant appeared, young, concerned. Sir, can I help you? I've got it. I didn't have it, but I'd learned that accepting help felt like admitting defeat. Better to struggle alone than to be seen as weak. I pulled myself up using the seat back, grabbed the crutches from the overhead bin, made my way down the aisle. Slow, awkward. Everyone watching but pretending not to watch. At the door, cold air hit me. December in Maryland. Nothing like the heat of Iraq or the damp of Germany. This was American cold, Christmas cold. The cold of a country at peace while its soldiers bled in deserts halfway around the world. A wheelchair waited at the gate. I waved it off. I can walk. Sir, it's quite a distance to baggage claim. I said I can walk. Pride. Stupid pride. But it was all I had left. If I couldn't walk off this plane on my own 2 feet, even if one foot was held together with metal and spite, then what was I? The terminal was decorated for Christmas. Lights, garland, a massive tree near the baggage carousel. Welcome home, our heroes banner stretched across the arrivals area. Heroes. I looked at the banner, at the smiling faces of civilians going about their holiday shopping, at the world that had kept spinning while mine had stopped. I wasn't a hero, Heroes didn't leave their crew to burn. Heroes didn't kill kids in doorways and feel nothing. Heroes came home proud. I came home hollow. "Danny!" Sarah's voice. I turned, too fast, the leg protested, and saw her, running. She slammed into me, arms around my neck, crying, laughing, both at once. "Oh God! Oh God, you're here! You're really here!" I wrapped my free arm around her, held on. She smelled like home, shampoo and laundry detergent and something essentially Sarah. Familiar, safe, foreign. "Hey," I managed. "I'm here." Katie and Mark appeared next, 8 and 6, bigger than I remembered. Had they grown that much in 4 months? Or had I just forgotten what they looked like? Katie hung back, uncertain, looking at the crutches, at my leg, at the man who was supposed to be her father but looked like a stranger. "Hi, Daddy." "Hey, sweetheart." Mark was braver, or younger, or less aware. He crashed into my good side. "You're home! Did you bring us presents? Mom said you got hurt. Does it hurt now? Can I see your stitches?" "Mark, give your father some space." Sarah was smiling, but her eyes were doing something else. Cataloging, assessing, trying to find the man she'd married in this damaged version standing before her. I could have told her not to bother looking. That man was gone. We collected my duffel, walked to the car. Sarah kept close, hovering, ready to catch me if I fell. Katie walked ahead, quiet. Mark chattered non-stop about school and Christmas and the new dog the neighbors got. The normalcy of it was suffocating. The drive home took an hour. Northern Virginia traffic, soccer moms in SUVs, teenagers texting at red lights, a Starbucks on every corner, civilization, safety, everything I'd been fighting to protect. It felt like a movie set, too perfect, too peaceful, too unreal. Sarah talked, filled the silence with updates. The house, the neighbors, work, trying to bridge the gap, trying to pretend everything was normal. I watched the scenery pass, counted exit signs, calculated distances, old habits, pilot habits, situational awareness even when there was no situation to be aware of. We pulled into our driveway. Our house, suburban, 2-story, Christmas lights already up, wreath on the door, Norman Rockwell, America. I stared at it. This was home, mine. I'd bought it, lived in it, raised my kids in it. Why did it look like a stranger's house? "Danny?" Sarah touched my arm. "You okay?" "Yeah, it's good to be home." Line number 300 and something. I'd lost count. Inside, everything was exactly where I'd left it. Photos on the walls, kids' artwork on the fridge, my reading chair in the corner. Familiar, comfortable, safe. Wrong. The walls felt too close, the ceiling too low, like the house was a box and I was trapped inside it. "You must be exhausted," Sarah said. "Why don't you lie down? I'll make dinner. Your favorite, lasagna." I wasn't hungry. Hadn't been hungry in months. Food was fuel. Eating was a chore. But I nodded. "Sounds great." I went upstairs. Each step was a negotiation. The leg hated stairs, especially stairs with carpet. Too soft. Not enough support. Our bedroom. Our bed. I sat on the edge, looked around. Sarah's side was neat. Mine was waiting. Covers turned down, welcoming. I lay back, stared at the ceiling, tried to feel something. Relief, happiness, gratitude. Nothing. Just the ticking of the clock on the nightstand. The distant sounds of Sarah in the kitchen. Katie's music from her room. Mark's video game downstairs. Normal life. Beautiful life. Why couldn't I connect to it? I didn't sleep. Couldn't. The bed was too soft. The room too quiet. Every sound made me tense. The house settling. The furnace kicking on. A car passing outside. All potential threats. I knew it was irrational. I was in Virginia, not Iraq. No one was shooting at me. No one was trying to kill me. But my body didn't know that. My nervous system was still calibrated for war, still expecting the next explosion, the next ambush, the next moment when everything went to shit. Dinner was awkward. We sat at the table, the four of us, family, together, and tried to be normal. Sarah asked about Germany, about the hospital, about my leg. I gave sanitized answers. It was fine. The doctors were good. The leg was healing. Katie pushed her food around her plate, not eating, not looking at me. Mark talked about school, about his friend's birthday party, about the new video game he wanted for Christmas. I nodded, made appropriate sounds, performed the role of interested father. But I wasn't there, not really. I was back in that building, in that courtyard, in that moment of decision, kill or die. "Danny," Sarah's voice pulled me back. "I asked if you wanted more water." "Oh, yeah, thanks." She filled my glass. Her hand shook slightly. She was nervous, scared maybe, of what I'd become, of what she'd lost. After dinner, the kids went to do homework. Sarah and I sat in the living room, pretending to watch TV, really just existing in the same space, trying to remember how to be married. "The kids are happy you're home," she said. "They seem good. Katie's having a hard time. She was so scared when we got the call, when they told us you'd been shot down, that you were injured. She didn't sleep for 3 days." Guilt twisted in my chest, adding to the pile. "I'm sorry. It's not your fault." But her voice said maybe it was, a little. For volunteering, for leaving, for getting shot down, for surviving when 3 other fathers didn't. Silence stretched between us. Not comfortable silence, the silence of strangers searching for common ground. "Are you okay?" she finally asked. "Really okay?" The question I'd been avoiding. The one everyone asked, but no one wanted the real answer to. "I'm fine, just adjusting. The Army said there's counseling available, support groups, other pilots who've been through." "I don't need counseling." Too sharp, too quick. Her face closed off, defensive walls going up. "Okay, I want to help." "Tell me how to help." How could she help? Could she erase the memories? Resurrect the dead? Turn back time to before the crash, before the killing, before everything changed? No. So what was the point? "Just be patient. I need time." She nodded, didn't look convinced. "Time. Right. Of course." That night I lay in bed beside my wife. Her breathing eventually slowed. Sleep. Easy, natural sleep. I stayed awake, stared at the ceiling, counted the hours until dawn. At 3 in the morning I gave up, got out of bed, grabbed the crutches, made my way downstairs, sat in the kitchen, in the dark, like I'd done in Germany, like I'd probably do for the rest of my life. The house was silent, peaceful. Everything I'd fought for. Why did it feel like a tomb? I made coffee, sat at the table, watched the darkness outside the window slowly gray with approaching dawn. And I realized I'd survived the crash, survived the 18 minutes, survived the surgeries and the hospitals and the journey home. But I hadn't survived intact. Something had broken in Fallujah, something fundamental. The core of who I was had cracked and now everything leaked out. Joy, connection, hope, all draining away through the fissure. And I didn't know how to fix it. Didn't even know if it could be fixed. Days passed. Then a week. Christmas came. We opened presents. The kids were happy. Sarah tried to make everything normal. I went through the motions, smiled at the right times, said thank you for gifts I didn't want and wouldn't use. Boxing Day, the day after Christmas, I had my first panic attack at home. It started small. The kids were playing, running, yelling, normal kid chaos. But Mark knocked over a lamp. It shattered, loud crash. And suddenly I wasn't in the living room. I was in the building. Grenade going off, walls collapsing, dust and smoke and screaming. I couldn't breathe, heart racing, vision tunneling, hands shaking. "Danny! Danny!" Sarah's voice, distant, echoing. I was on the floor. When had I gotten on the floor? My back against the wall, hyperventilating. "It's okay, you're home. You're safe, you're home." She kept repeating it, like a mantra. Slowly, the living room came back into focus. The TV, the Christmas tree, the broken lamp. Katie and Mark in the doorway, staring, scared of me. I'd scared my children. "I'm sorry." My voice shook. "I'm sorry, I'm fine, I'm okay." But I wasn't fine, wasn't okay, and lying about it was getting harder. Sarah took the kids to their rooms, came back, sat beside me on the floor. "This isn't working," she said quietly. "I know. You need help, real help, please, Danny, for me, for the kids, for yourself." I looked at her, at the worry in her eyes, at the exhaustion, at the woman who'd married a pilot and got back a ghost. "Okay," I whispered. "Okay." The next day I called the VA, made an appointment, started the paperwork for mental health services, started the long, slow process of admitting I was broken, and maybe, starting to heal, or at least learning to live with the cracks. 3 years later, I sat in a circle of folding chairs in a VA community center and told strangers what I'd never told my wife. My name is Danny Coleman. I was a Black Hawk pilot. 3 years ago, I was shot down over Fallujah. The words came easier now. Not easy, but easier. Like a scar that still hurt but didn't bleed anymore. I was on the ground for 18 minutes, lost my crew, killed 5 enemy combatants, broke my leg, got rescued. The clinical version, the sanitized version, the version that fit in 20 seconds. The truth took 3 years to unpack, and I still hadn't reached the bottom. The group listened, 10 of us, all veterans, all carrying invisible wounds that were somehow heavier than the visible ones. We met every Thursday evening, had been meeting for 6 months. It was the only place I could breathe. Marcus sat across from me, double amputee, lost both legs in Helmand Province. He nodded as I talked. He knew. We all knew. Rachel was next to him, combat medic, had held her best friend while she bled out from a femoral artery wound. Couldn't save her, still trying to forgive herself. Miguel, Rodriguez's brother, the one from the roof in Landstuhl, sat on my left. He'd figured out who he was without being a crew chief. Therapist now. Funny how that worked. "How are you doing?" Janet asked, our group facilitator. Middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a patience that seemed infinite. Really doing. I thought about it. Honest assessment, not the automatic fine I gave everyone else. "Better," I said finally. "Not good, but better." "What does better look like?" "I sleep sometimes. 3-4 hours a night."
That's up from 1.
"I can go to the grocery store without having a panic attack. Usually, I can be in the same room as my kids without seeing threats everywhere." That's progress. It's survival. I looked around the circle, at the faces that understood. "I'm surviving, that's all. 1 day at a time. Sometimes 1 hour at a time." "That's enough," Marcus said. "Some days surviving is winning." After group, I walked outside. No crutches anymore, just a limp. A permanent reminder. The leg had healed as much as it was going to. Titanium rod, screws, pins, a weather predictor built into my skeleton. The VA parking lot was mostly empty. Late evening, November again. 3 years almost to the day since the crash. I stood there, looked at the sky, clear, stars visible despite the light pollution. Somewhere up there, pilots were flying, doing what I used to do, being who I used to be. I didn't miss it as much as I thought I would. "Captain Coleman?" I turned. Young guy, early 20s, military haircut, nervous eyes.
Just Danny now.
"Right, sorry. I was in 3rd Battalion 1st Marines, Fallujah, November 2004. He paused, swallowed hard. "I was one of the QRF guys. We pulled you out." The world tilted, slightly, just enough to notice. "You were there?" "Yeah, I'm Private First Class Martinez. Was. I'm out now. But I was there. I carried you to the Humvee. You probably don't remember. You were pretty out of it." I didn't remember faces. Just hands, voices, the feeling of being lifted, saved. I remember someone saved my life. "We just did our job." He looked down, kicked at nothing. "I wanted to tell you what you did. Holding out for 18 minutes, alone, against all those guys. We talked about it, in the unit. You were a badass, man. Badass. The word felt wrong. Heroes were badass. I was just scared. I wasn't brave. I was terrified. Yeah, but you kept fighting. That's what brave is, right? Being scared and doing it anyway. He looked up, met my eyes. I got out 2 years ago. PTSD, nightmares, the usual shit. I'm in therapy now, getting better. But I wanted to find you, to say thank you. Thank me for what? For showing us it's okay to struggle, for surviving, for still being here. He smiled, sad but real. Not everyone makes it, you know. Not everyone keeps fighting after they get home. But you did. And that helps, knowing it's possible. We talked for a few more minutes, exchanged numbers, promised to stay in touch. Probably wouldn't, but the gesture mattered. After he left, I sat in my car. Didn't start the engine, just sat. Thought about what he'd said, about surviving being enough, about the fight not ending when the shooting stopped. He was right. The war hadn't ended 3 years ago. It had just changed fronts, from external to internal, from them to me. And I was still fighting. I drove home, our house, still the same 2-story suburban box. But it didn't feel like a trap anymore, just a house. My house. Imperfect, but mine. Sarah was in the kitchen, doing dishes, turned when I came in. How was group? Good, hard, but good. She smiled. Not the worried smile from 3 years ago, a real smile. We'd rebuilt something, not what we had before, something different, harder earned, more honest. Kids are asleep, I saved you dinner. Thanks. I ate. We talked. Normal conversation. Work. Bills. Katie's school play next week. Mark's soccer tournament. Normal life. Beautiful life. I could feel it now. Not completely, not like before, but I could feel it. Small moments of connection. Brief flashes of joy. Cracks in the numbness where light got through. Later I went upstairs, checked on the kids. Katie, 11 now, was sprawled across her bed, book open beside her, reading light still on. I turned it off, covered her with a blanket. Mark, 9, was curled up with stuffed animals he claimed he was too old for but couldn't sleep without. I adjusted his blanket too, stood there, watched him breathe. They'd grown up while I was learning to be human again. They'd adapted. Kids were resilient that way, but they'd been scared, for a long time, of me, of the stranger who'd come home wearing their father's face. It had taken time, patience, therapy for all of us, family counseling, learning to talk, to communicate, to exist together in the aftermath. We were still learning, would probably always be learning, but we were learning together. That was something. In our bedroom, Sarah was reading. Looked up when I came in. You okay? Yeah. I meant it this time. I am. I got ready for bed. Pills, less than before, but still necessary. Anti-anxiety, sleep aid, pain management. A cocktail of chemicals that kept me functional. I lay down beside her. She turned off the light. Darkness used to terrify me. Darkness meant threat, danger, unknown enemies. Now it was just darkness. Just the absence of light, nothing more. Danny? Sarah's voice in the dark. I'm proud of you, you know that, right? For what? For fighting, for not giving up, for still being here. The same words Martinez had said, about survival, about the daily war. I'm trying. I know, that's what I'm proud of. She fell asleep. Her breathing slowed, steady, peaceful. I stayed awake, old habit, but not anxious, not panicked, just awake, thinking. About 18 minutes that had become 3 years. About the man I'd been and the man I'd become. About the distance between them, not as far as it used to be. Still significant, but crossable. I thought about Jones, about Sanchez, about Mitchell, about the 5 men I'd killed whose names I'd never know. The guilt was still there, would always be there, but I'd learned to carry it, to integrate it, to accept that I could be both, guilty and surviving, broken and healing. dead inside and slowly coming back to life. The math didn't have to balance. Sometimes survival was enough of an answer. Around 2 in the morning, I got up, grabbed my crutch, kept one around for bad days, and made my way downstairs. But not to sit in the dark kitchen, not this time. I went to the back porch, sat on the steps, looked at the sky. Clear night, cold, November air that tasted like winter coming. I thought about the roof in Landstuhl, about watching the sunrise, about the moment of peace before the next war began. 3 years of war, against myself, against the memories, against the guilt and the shame and the brokenness. I hadn't won. Wasn't sure you could win a war like that, but I hadn't lost either. I was still here, still fighting, still breathing, still alive. My phone buzzed. Text message from Miguel. "You up?" I smiled. Of course he was awake too. We all were. The 2 a.m. brotherhood of the sleepless. "Yeah, bad night?" "No, good night, just thinking. You good?" "Yeah, I'm good." And I was, in that moment, on that porch, under those stars. Good. Not healed, not whole, but good. It was enough. I stayed outside until dawn, watched the sky slowly lighten, black to gray to blue, the world waking up, starting again, getting another chance. Like me. I'd fallen from the sky 3 years ago, crashed, burned, broke into pieces, and I'd been rebuilding ever since, piece by piece, day by day, hour by hour. The structure wasn't the same, couldn't be. Too much was missing, too much had changed, but it was standing. I was standing. And some days, days like this, that was enough. The sun cleared the horizon, golden light, new day, fresh start. I went inside, made coffee, heard Sarah moving around upstairs. The kids would be up soon. Another day would begin. Work, school, therapy, life. The mundane, beautiful, tedious, difficult, perfect disaster of normal life. I'd survived 18 minutes in Fallujah. Now I was surviving the rest of my life. One sunrise at a time. And that was victory enough. 10 years after Fallujah, I stood in a high school gymnasium in Northern Virginia and talked to 200 teenagers about courage. Courage isn't not being afraid, I said. Courage is being terrified and doing it anyway. It's getting up every morning when you want to stay in bed. It's asking for help when you think you should be strong. It's surviving when survival is the hardest thing you've ever done. I talked about the crash, about the 18 minutes, about the 3 men who didn't make it home. I didn't glorify it, didn't romanticize it, told them the truth. War is ugly. Survival is ugly. Healing is ugly, but possible. Always possible. After a kid approached, thin, anxious, looked about 16. "Mr. Coleman, I just wanted to say, my dad's in Afghanistan. He's coming home soon. And I'm scared because my friend's dad came home and he was different. And I'm scared my dad will be different too." I looked at this kid, at the worry in his eyes, at the fear of losing something you can't name. "He will be different," I said honestly. "War changes people, but different isn't always bad. It's just different. And if you're patient, if you're there, if you keep showing up even when it's hard, you can build something new, together." Did you build something new? I thought about Sarah, about Katie and Mark, teenagers now, tall and strong and beautiful, about the life we'd rebuilt from the wreckage. "Yeah," I said, "we did. It took time. It took work, but we did." So there's hope? There's always hope. Even when you can't see it, even when it feels impossible, there's always hope. He nodded, thanked me, walked away. I watched him go, thought about hope, about survival, about the long road from broken to whole enough. I'd walked that road, was still walking it, would probably walk it for the rest of my life. But I was walking, not flying, not soaring, just walking. And sometimes, often, that was enough. I walked out of the gymnasium, into the parking lot, into another day, Another chance. Another moment of being alive in a world that had tried very hard to kill me. The sky was blue, clear, perfect flying weather. I looked up, smiled, and kept walking. Forward. Always forward.
One step at a time.